So this is talk number 18 of a series, actually. So if you want to, I will also be able to provide those other ones. The noble truth of surfing. A poor man, angered by hunger and sickness in the streets below a great tower, he decided to climb it and ask the rich for help. A wise man warned him, none return unchanged. A guardian said, dress like them, or they won't listen. He agreed. Another said, harden your heart, or you won't survive this climb. He agreed. A third said, stop seeing everything as unfair. It's much more complicated. He agreed. At the top, he spoke calmly, but he no longer felt the suffering. I forget why I came, but I'm very hungry, he said, and stayed to feast. Suffering invites deeper questions. What's its cause? Is it personal failure, social structure, or a universal human condition? In work and life, we ask whether achievement ends suffering or merely rearranges it, whether control is possible, and what genuine freedom actually means. In the Philippines, often a family cannot afford hospital bills. I would often discuss their problem with the welfare department of the hospital. And they were expected to repay the bill over time. But they had to write and sign something called a promissory note, where their property was held as collateral until the debt was repaid. A promissory note. One of the families told me they had given the hospital a I promise, sorry, no, not a promissory note. Suffering is an inevitable part of the human condition, often acting as a catalyst for growth, compassion, and resilience. It is frequently distinguished from physical pain by the mental resistance or clinging and attachment that causes deeper, optional distress. The handful of salt story. A man was angry about life's unfairness. Buddha asked him to put salt in a cup of water and drink it. Nyah, too salty. Then Buddha asked him, put the same amount of salt into a large lake and drink. Not salty. The lesson, expand your mind, the lake. So life's troubles, the salt, don't overpower you. Siddhartha, before becoming Buddha, saw an old man, a sick man, and a dead body, realizing that suffering, salt, is inevitable for everyone, which drove him to seek liberation of expanding his mind. There are some tactics to help tackle life's distresses. When facing suffering, begin with a daily reflection practice. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes to ask, what caused stress today? What was in my control? What was not in my control? Next, break overwhelming problems into small intentional steps. Focus on one clear action rather than the whole burden. Finally, use mindful breathing throughout the day. Slow, steady breaths. Anchor the body. Calm reactivity. And create space between pain and response, allowing wiser choices to emerge gradually. Even in suffering, notice small supports, breath, kindness, shelter, learning, steady work. Gratitude steadies the heart without denying pain, reminding that goodness coexists alongside difficulty. Pause. Observe suffering directly. Notice thoughts, tension, reactions, urges to escape. Awareness softens struggle, creates space for wiser, kinder response. Many people find it all too dark and depressing. So I've been considering reinstating the Bikini order of nuns. They teach the noble truths of surfing, the causes of surfing, cessation of surfing, and the path to the beach. Once, a farmer's donkey fell into a deep well. The farmer tried to rescue him, but the donkey was too heavy and the well too deep. Deciding the donkey was old and the well needed filling anyway, he asked his neighbours to shovel dirt into it. The donkey brayed in despair, then grew quiet. With each shovel of dirt thrown down, he shook it off and stepped up. Load after load fell. Step by step, he rose, until at last he climbed out and trotted away. Suffering can be reimagined as raw material. Instead of resisting it, I ask, what is shaping it, revealing, or inviting me to create differently? Suffering becomes a doorway on the spiritual path. It exposes attachment, humbles ambition, and redirects paths towards compassion, service, and deeper inner freedom. To make it all more positive, here are some freshly revised precepts. 1, I undertake the precept to refrain from killing conversation, like asking if you're vegetarian or not. 2, I undertake the precept to refrain from stealing the limelight and the attention. 3, I undertake the precept not to abuse sensual pleasures, such as putting chili sauce and anchovies on pizza, and also putting out candies such as Turkish Delight in talcum powder for guests. 4thly, I undertake the precept to refrain from smug speech, such as incomprehensible ancient languages that only I know. And 5thly, I undertake the precept to refrain from intoxicating self-righteousness and moralizing people who drink 3-in-1 coffee. I should lighten things up a bit. The mechanism of avoidable suffering is that we ourselves drive it with interpretations and feed it with attention and unmindfulness. These sufferings are unnecessary. Changes in mind can deeply affect our own experience. Even a very challenging, so-called negative event. A wealthy father's son left home and wandered for years in poverty, convinced he was worthless. The father searched tirelessly and eventually found him begging in a distant city. Not knowing, the palace nearby belonged to his own father. When guards approached, the frightened son fled. So the father sent servants dressed plainly to offer him humble work, cleaning toilets. Feeling the job suited his low self-worth, the son accepted. The father, disguised, worked beside him and gradually encouraged and promoted him. On his deathbed, he revealed the truth and left him the entire estate. When suffering arises, pause and name it gently. This is pain. Notice where it sits in the body. Breathe steadily into that area without trying to fix it. Reflect on impermanence. This feeling is changing. Ask, what is being clung to right now? Loosen the grip slightly. Practice compassion by remembering others experience similar struggles. Take one wholesome action, a kind word, a helpful task, a moment of generosity. Return daily to ethical living, meditation, and wise reflection to steadily reduce the root of suffering. Impermanence is not the cause of our suffering, but we cannot get happiness from hollowness. The truth of suffering is not a doomsday prediction, an inevitable destiny. It alerts us to the fact that we are not being aware of what we really are, or the way we really are, could be. But so me, I was born in Luton, England. Luton, or as some airlines call it, London. It was only recently that I found out the truth. I mean, Luton is not an easy place. I recently discovered that I am Luton intolerant. Since the Bodhisattva studied under a Brahmin who knew a spell that made jewels rain from the sky, he was captured by bandits. The teacher was warned not to use it. Impatient, he cast the spell anyway. Treasure fell from the sky. Greed followed. Rival thieves slaughtered one another after the riches. At last, only two remained. One killed the other one, and then celebrated, died from poisoned porridge. When the Bodhisattva returned, he found two corpses and treasure scattered all around. He reflected that, selfish gain breeds ruin, and he used the wealth for generosity instead. When you think about destiny and fate, do you feel passive or responsible? Where might belief in it was meant to be excuse greed or harmful choices? Notice how craving shapes outcomes. Does suffering arise from fate or from attachment, intention, and actions? 3 dinosaurs found a magic lamp. They rubbed it, and a dino genie appeared. 3 wishes, 1 each, it said. Okay. First dinosaur. He asked for a big, juicy piece of meat. Instantly, the largest steak he'd ever seen appeared. Slop. Wow. The second, not to be outdone, wished for a shower of meat. Down it rained in slabs. Slop, 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 slop. The third, determined to outdo them both, shouted, I want a meteor shower. Meteor shower. Oops. The rest, as I say, is extinction history. Reflecting on the truths of suffering is not morbid, rather is a way to stop life being lived on autopilot and to live more intentionally, fully in the present. Understanding suffering's mechanisms is key to opening your mind and heart. Remove beliefs blocking joy. Sometimes, actually, strange connections occur. We have to discover our life purpose to unlock them. Working in London as a stagehand, I was offered work at the Millennium Dome, preparing for the year 2000 opening. I was working with a fun person called Jeff Blake. Jeff told me he had a family connection directly back to William Blake, who was his great-great-great-grandfather or something, the mystic, artist and poet. I really enjoyed his company. Another artist had composed the music for the opening show, one of my heroes, Peter Gabriel. The sound echoed around me and Jeff all day long for months, their rehearsals. One day, I looked on the Dome's website. It said that Peter Gabriel had written this music inspired by 2 things. One, the DNA chromosome links of families and generations through eras. 2, the poetry and work of William Blake. Every day, take a pause and consider how unpredictable many connections you experience were. Those people's lives. Was there a higher connection, a higher truth at play? Every day, note that devas and bodhisattvas are always guiding us, assisting us, listening to us. Every day, take time to listen and connect to your higher purpose. Every day, practice letting go. Letting go of too much fear-based reasoning, not enough divine intuition. Every day, respect the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, teachers and parents. Reflect, like in the Dhammapada, verse 197. Indeed, we live very happily, not hating anyone, among those who hate. Among people who hate, we live without hating anyone. Not striving for sensual pleasures, among those who strive for them. We live without striving. A student is on one side of a raging river. There are no bridges. He has no boat. He shouts out to the master on the opposite bank, "Master, how do I get to the other side?" The master shouts back, "You are already on the other side." I once was lost in blazing sun among tall, thorny bushes in Sri Lanka. There was one tall, dead tree, and I hoped for a view from it. Winding closer, a small animal rushed off. I thought it was a pig. I kept going. Then a large elephant, alarmed, crashed away into the bushes. I reached the tree. Flattened, dry grass circled it. A baby elephant's resting place. I'd walked straight into that baby elephant and mother's home. Suffering was not in the jungle. It's probably in my blindness and restlessness, maybe my ambition. Where does suffering truly arise? In changing conditions? Or in our insistence they stay the same? With so many losses and uncertainties, what steadies the heart? Perhaps refuge lies in practicing Dharma honesty and walking with a Sangha that helps us suffer with more wisdom. I was retelling the elephant nest incident while I was in Colombo city, Sri Lanka, at a family gathering. When I got to the part about the mother elephant, the rather large lady of the house had begun to get to stand up, looking somewhat upset. I'd continued until I got to the part about there I was in the living space of the mother elephant, and with a huff and a trumpet, the lady stomped into the center of the room, believing I was actually referring to her. Her husband had to calm her down and reassure her. What is happening is this. Among nesting, protective beings, we intrude. We seek freedom. The pull between solitary exploration of the unknown and the comfort of the known creates tension. We must exist somewhere, yet existence strains against itself, seeking light, coolness, and safety in a hot, thorny wilderness. At that same location in Sri Lanka, the kuti I stayed at was a 20-minute walk through hot sand tracks to the ocean. Pathways wove through bushes and trees, and it was easy to get lost. To help, I took some yellow electrical tape and put markers on key branches there and back. One day, the markers were all gone. At the ocean, there was a pile of broken branches with yellow tape on them. One of the elephants hadn't liked my idea at all. To walk these tracks, the sun was fiercely hot. I covered my head with my folded robe for shade, seeing only the track just in front of my feet. Step, step, step. I nearly stepped on a wild elephant sleeping on the path. There's something humbling about realizing that 5 tons of wilderness does not recognize your little improvements. Try to pause daily for 5 quiet minutes. Notice where you are marking paths, adding tape to branches, expecting the wilderness to cooperate. Walk gently. Look ahead, but not so far you forget the ground beneath you. Take 3 slow breaths before acting. Ask, is this needed, or am I forcing change? When it's confusing, don't redesign the forest. Take one careful step on the track in front of you. Respect the tuskers and the elders. Others have walked here for generations. Suffering grows in haste and assumption. It softens in awareness, patience, and steady, deliberate steps. How often do we wander like the lost son, convinced we are small, unaware of what already surrounds us? How often do we mark our paths, assuming the ground is empty and ours to claim? Perhaps suffering begins in not seeing where we truly stand. As a teenager, I sneaked into tunnels beneath a school. Deep below was a room with a naughty smoking table and an old black and white photo on it. The tradition of boys was to sign the back. I looked closer at the photo. Wait a minute, 1957, school play. There in the back row of the photo, it was my dad. We went to the same school. It was true. Suffering is like a tightening knot. You pull harder and you make it worse. We can ignore it and let it happen, or we can loosen it slightly, strand by strand. Suffering is like a fire. We can feed it, we can fear it, or we can understand what gives it fuel. Suffering is like carrying a heavy bowl of water. The tighter we grip, the more it spills. The steadier the hand, the calmer the surface. Suffering is quicksand. Stillness steadies. Struggling sinks. Gentle, steady movements bring release. Of course, as monks, we get showered with food. There's a great danger of politely agreeing to it all. Most of my beloved, kind-hearted Theravada teachers were very round and overweight. That's how they got their name, the Tubbies. Suffering is like being caught in a current. The more we thrash, the more exhausted we become. The more we fight the water, the stronger it feels. Grip too tightly, and balance is lost. Panic feeds the force against us. But when we stop struggling, float, and move with understanding, the current loses its power. What seemed overpowering was intensified by resistance. How does it work? Notice how our behavior has been affecting the suffering. There are patterns behind it. It's one of the ways suffering increases suffering. Then it maintains itself by bringing up fueling thoughts and ideas to support it. A furnace with shovels and stacks of fuel. Look closely. It is going round in circles. We can face suffering, one suffering at a time. We like to ignore suffering's existence. It is coming soon. The more we wake up and accept suffering's truths, less escape, less avoiding, the better. So we get real. By accepting reality, we can learn to solve problems. By avoiding problems, by giving up, we only get weak and overcome by events when they arrive. We can master the ocean of samsara by experience, through mindfully learning to be in life joyfully. Remember this noble truth. Yes, all life has avoidable suffering, but that the art of life is surfing. The noble truth of surfing. Let go, let it be, don't attach to it. Suffering comes in waves. We like to ignore suffering's existence. It is coming soon. The more we wake up and accept suffering's truth, less escape, less avoiding, the better. Get real. By confronting the waves of reality, we can learn to ride them. By scrambling sideways, we crash. By falling asleep on the beach, we only get weak and tumbled by events when they roll in endlessly. Because things change, growth is possible. Because people shift, relationships stay alive. Because nothing fully satisfies, we are freed from endless chasing. Suffering grows by clinging to control and permanence. When we expect movement instead of stability, life becomes workable, not threatening. So I'd like to end this talk with wishing you well. My gratitude and appreciation for your kind attention. May many of you attain the peace of Nirvana and be free from all avoidable suffering and harm. May you all be peaceful, happy, safe, and well. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.